Getting a little bit higher with every step I take. I'm getting good. Getting a little bit better. I'm climbing to the top. Never gonna stop. I'm getting good. Oh, shoot.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Oh Shoot. I'm your host, Cassidy Lynne, and it's another Monday, and I'm so excited to be here today. I hope you guys are having a great start to the week. If you're listening to this later on in the week, I hope you're just having a good week, okay? So this Monday, today, we have a very fun episode, and you guys always love this episode. You guys always request these types of episodes. So I'm giving them to you. They're also so fun to record and so fun to put together. So I'm really excited for today's episode. We are doing photography confessions. So you guys, listeners, my followers, submitted their confessions. Honestly, the confessions of a photographer, if you will. So you guys submitted, and I am here to dish all of your confessions. Some of them we're ranging from all sorts of categories at this point, so we are going to get right into it. I do just want to briefly mention to my YouTube listeners, I'm wearing a hat that either launched with my merch drop or didn't launch with my merch drop. Not 100% sure yet, but the Let's Go Take Photos dual tone cap. Everyone's like, release a flat bill hat, release a flat bill hat. Well, here I am releasing a flat bill hat if I did drop it. So if you like merch, if you like supporting the pod, go check it out. CassidyLynneEducation.com/merch. Okay, so let's get into your confessions today. You guys never hold back. And in fact, I'm a little terrified, to be honest. So let's get into it. I went to shoot a wedding, and I had an aunt of the bride approach me, handed me a $50 bill, and told me to keep her out of every picture, and she was dead serious. She's like, you can call me Amish, you can say that I'm in witness protection program. I just do not want to be in any of the photos. I don't care. Don't want to be in the background, none of it. I do not want a trace of me on social media. And I said, oh, don't worry, I don't tend to post much of the candid shots of the people from a wedding on my social media. She goes, it will somehow end up there at some point. She did not care. She did not want to be in a single picture. The bride even approached me after. She talked to me and she was like, I'm so sorry. My aunt is a little crazy. Just disregard whatever she says. I mean, I'm going to do my best to not get her in the pictures, but that's not my job. My job is to photograph the bride and the groom and all of the things and worry about just them. So if an aunt or so is in the background, I don't care. I did my best to not get her in the background, but after a while, I was just like, dude, I don't have time to look for who's in the background of every single picture. At one point, I didn't notice her all of a sudden, and she ducked down by the table during the meal when I was taking a picture of someone that was way in front of her. And I had to hold my laughter because literally, what are you doing? And I didn't want to take any of her money. She literally wouldn't let me go without it. So, I mean, I guess I made $50 for not even really trying to keep her out of the photos. Moral of the story, if you're coming to a wedding, there's a good chance you're going to be in pictures, not on purpose. Don't come to a wedding if you don't want to be in pictures on accident. Simple as that. That is so funny. I'm picturing this aunt just dodging out of the way of this photo. That's low-key so embarrassing. You don't want to be in a photo so bad that you're dodging it. I get that people are, trying to protect themselves for whatever reason. But at the end of the day, the photos are just going to the bride and groom. And if the couple knows that you don't want to be in photos, they're not gonna, if there's a photo of you in it, it's not like they're gonna go and post it. And most of the time / all of the time, wedding galleries are private. So the only people that really can access those photos are people that were at the wedding or people that were given access. So it's just, that's a little bit far, but honestly, good for you. You made $50. Getting into wedding photography, I thought it would increase my chances of meeting a potential bachelor because I heard that weddings are the #1 setting to find a partner. I can confirm it's not true, and I confess I'm a little bit disappointed. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know if I'd want to like find someone at the weddings that I shoot. Like sometimes I'm like, I'm not really like, I don't know. Sometimes the crowds, I'm like, I feel like at weddings, sometimes you see people at their worst. Like you see people at their best too, but I feel like sometimes you see people acting how they maybe not would normally act for whatever reason. So, I mean, I feel like that statistic might be true for like maybe a wedding guest, but I feel like a wedding photographer is just a little bit different. Like I feel like if you were wearing a dress or if you're a guy, if you were wearing a suit and you just like show up to a wedding as a guest, I think that's a lot different than like if you're shooting it. You know what I mean? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm pretty sure many of people have found their spouse or significant other when they were shooting a wedding, but I feel like it's just more likely if you're actually like a guest. I don't know. Okay. I've taken engagement photos for one girl 3 times, 3 different guys. Wait, that is insane. Like the fact that she hasn't gone to a different photographer. She's like, I found my photographer. I like the photographer. It's almost like you're in a more steady relationship than she is. Like you and the girl are in a more steady relationship than this girl is with all the different guys. Like you're her longest relationship. Truly. That is insane. And you know what I love about like girlhood is the fact that it's like, I will continue to take your photos. Absolutely. You go through 7 guys. I will capture every single one of them. As long as you're paying me, like I'm there. At that point, like I'm invested. I want to see who you end up with, like actually. Okay. The groom was grinding on his female groomsmen when his bride was away putting their 6-month-old baby to bed. I didn't see this, but my husband/second shooter did. He later told me about it and said he might have gotten some photos of it. The next day, the bride asked me for all the raws from the reception because she heard about something disturbing going on and she was trying to figure something out. She offered to send more money for all of the raws as well, but being a girl's girl, I sent them all over to her, no questions asked. Are you kidding me? This is crazy. This is actually crazy. We, as photographers, see way more than we bargain for. I feel like we see and take pictures of things that we're like, what just happened? But it's like, the thing is, it's our job to document what happens. That is why we are the wedding photographer. We're documenting what happens at the wedding. But sometimes things happen where it's like, do I keep taking pictures? Like, for example, I had a guest. I think I've told this story on the podcast before. I've had a guest pass out while like someone was walking, like while the bride and groom were coming back down the aisle. And it's like the bride was so frantic and scared. It's like, I don't really think I'm going to take pictures of this, although it's my job to document like the entire day. And I think like this kind of like this concept of we are taking photos of everything that happens. And sometimes that might be, showing the bride that, oh, your groom actually was doing stuff while you were putting down your baby. Like sometimes that's how it goes. And honestly, I don't think there's anything like, is there anything in a contract that would say you can't do that? I don't know. That's crazy. That's actually crazy. I hate getting shot lists. They're my 13th reason and they're always arbitrary. I'm going to take photos of everything. It's literally my job. Please don't tell me take photos of the bride walking down the aisle or bride and groom's first kiss. Like this is already implied. I agree with this. I think shot lists in general are just, I think they're starting to become a thing of the past. I mean, I don't think I've ever really gotten a shot list from a client because it's kind of implied that I know what I'm going to get shots of. But I mean, sometimes people just think that's what they need to do. I think it's important that like to tell your client, like, I do not need a shot list. In fact, like, I don't want one. Yeah. And I think part of it too is a little bit of a trust thing. I wonder if sometimes the clients that give shot lists like just don't trust that their photographer is going to get everything that they need, or maybe they've never worked with a photographer before, so they don't know that like the photographer knows, you know. There's all sorts of things, but I mean, I think every single person can agree listening to this, a shot list is literally the worst. Unless it's a shot list that I've made for myself, because that's how my brain works. And I'm not saying necessarily for me, because my brain doesn't really work like that. But if you're the type of person that a shot list is helpful for you, I think it's important for you to make that list. I think when someone else makes it, that's when it becomes like a literal like to-do list. And that's just annoying and kind of takes away the creative freedom, creative liberty of it all. Okay, on to the next. A close friend of mine started the same photography business as me. We live 5 minutes away from each other and I'm salty about it. Oh no. Don't be salty, but like, I could see how that would be frustrating. A close friend of yours. Yeah, and you live 5 minutes away from each other. I mean, who started it first? That's a good question. But also, like, I feel like photography, like, it's like a lot of people like to do photography. You guys could be in a completely different niche. Like, you never know. And honestly, that might even bring you guys closer too. Like, how fun would it be to be able to refer your clients to her? You know, I don't know if this is a girl or guy, but how fun would it be to like refer your clients to them, and then their clients, they can refer to you? Like, it's a nice relationship. And I think honestly, some of my closest friends are photographers and I've met them through the industry. So I think, I don't know, I wouldn't like right away, like, you have every right to feel salty, absolutely, but I wouldn't write it off and just, I don't know, maybe give her I keep thinking this is a girl, give them the benefit of the doubt and just like allow space for it to happen and just kind of see how it goes. That's all I'm going to say. All right, here's another confession. If one of your bridesmaids or groomsmen is rude to my second shooter, I will absolutely make sure to include at least one super unflattering photo of them in the final gallery. Okay, does anyone else do this? I personally don't really do this, but like I actually have heard that this is like decently common, where it's like you put like purposefully are choosing unflattering photos of people if you know like, oh, like this person wasn't nice or whatever. That is so funny. I mean, I can't even like, I feel like when I go to actually edit a wedding, sometimes I don't even remember like exactly what happened during the day. Like I do, like obviously I have pictures of everything, but I don't remember exactly like, oh, this person did this. Like sometimes like a month later when I'm actually editing my photos, it's not super clear in my head, but good for you for being able to remember. And honestly, feels a little bit like karma. Like you're kind of just helping karma along a little bit. I took a gummy before a session thinking it would make me relaxed and creative. Gummy is in quotations, by the way. Nope. I was paranoid and I tripped over my own equipment. Never again. The pictures still came out good though. Yeah, you're not the first person that's done this. I had a write-in like a while ago of someone that did this, and I found out it literally was someone that took photos of me. It was like one of my friends. This is like I've heard of this happening before. First of all, with gummies in general, just like getting really nervous from them. I've heard that happens to people who are like prone to being anxious. Honestly, don't try anything for the first time right before a shoot. I don't know why we think that's a good idea. Like, for example, I tried limoncello for the first time before a shoot, and it was a lot of alcohol I didn't realize, and it was just bad. I mean, the shoot turned out good. The photos still turned out good, but like, if you're into like, you know, experimenting, maybe an energy drink before something, like just maybe don't like do the whole thing or just try I don't know, because you never know. You just never know how your body's going to react to it. And this goes with anything. Like, I don't know, maybe don't try a brand new raw fish sushi roll before a session if you know that sometimes your stomach is prone to being upset by those things. Like, come on now. One time before a session at a park, I really had to pee and there was no bathroom. So I peed by a tree, and as I was walking back to my car, my client was there early and we did the whole session without them ever knowing I just peed on a tree right before we met up. I would never do this. I don't know how many like of you guys listening are into like peeing in nature, and like if you have to pee, you just pee wherever, but like I cannot do that. I literally can't. And that's actually like so insane that like you peed and your client literally could have just walked by that tree that you were peeing by. And like all of a sudden you'd have like the most horrifying horror story ever. That's just risky business. I don't know. But it's like, what else do you do if you have to pee? Honestly, though, I feel like the right client would understand too. Like the right client is going to be chill about it and be like, oh, whatever. Like, cool. You had to pee. You know, sometimes I have to pee too. Like, cool. Okay. I was hanging out with the bridesmaids and there was a baby screaming outside of the room. One of the bridesmaids said, OMG, who brings a baby to a wedding? And everyone laughed, and me trying to fit in, I was like, OMG, ew, right? And everyone got really quiet. And the bridesmaid that had mentioned the baby was like, yeah, that's actually my baby. I felt so awkward for the entire evening, and I apologized so many times. That is so embarrassing. Oh my gosh. Oh, no. I have the secondhand embarrassment for you. But also, like, I don't know. I feel like stuff like that, that's tricky because obviously everyone laughed because the bridesmaid said, oh, who would bring a baby to a wedding? Being sarcastic, like joking, but you didn't know that. So I almost feel like that's a little bit unfair to you because it's like, you're new to this situation. Hi, I'm new here. I don't know who has a baby, who doesn't have a baby. And like this girl literally just said, who brings a baby to a wedding? So I'm going to be like, right? Like agree. That is crazy. That's actually crazy. But also you know what else I feel so much from this story is saying that you apologize so many times for the entire evening. Like that is also so me. If I do something that was taken the wrong way or like, you know, I thought would be funny and then like it wasn't funny, I'm apologizing profusely for the rest of the day, whether it's a wedding or not. And this sucks too, because like if you're the main shooter, you are basically with the bridesmaids all day. And like the vibe with the bridesmaids has to be so good. Like you have to really vibe with them and mesh with them. Otherwise, your day could literally be hell. So I feel like this was just not starting off on a good foot. And I'm so sorry that happened. The only thing worse than taking too many photos while you're shooting is getting home and then having to edit all of them. Here are some ways to speed up your editing workflow without losing any quality in your work. Today, I want to introduce Aftershoot Edits 2.0. You can experience the most consistent edits straight out of Aftershoot. One of my favorite things about Aftershoot is their upgraded white balance and exposure AI models. Even if your lighting varies during your session and you have a lot of drastic changes, Aftershoot's able to instantly fix any blown out highlights, murky shadows, and overall, this feature allows you to have balanced photos no matter what your lighting conditions were. Another way to speed up your editing workflow is by using AI masking in Aftershoot Edits 2.0. This feature allows you to selectively edit your images through masking. With AI masking, Aftershoot can automatically select your subjects and adjust them to really make them pop in your image. Another great way to save time while you're editing is to use Aftershoot's advanced cropping and straightening. This tool allows you to customize and select any aspect ratio, and it even automatically crops in your photos so that the focus is more on your subject. It also can automatically straighten your photo, which is going to save you so much time in the long run. Say goodbye to spending way too much time editing your photos and use Aftershoot Edits 2.0. Aftershoot has an exclusive offer for all OShoot listeners, so go to the link in the description of this episode to find out more. Thank you guys so much for watching, and now back to the show. Okay, and this is another baby story. I thought I would like clump do some categories here and there. Shortly after I had a baby, I had to shoot a wedding. At the time, I was nursing, so I still needed to bring my pump with me to weddings. Well, I forgot to bring a pump to this wedding, so I went hours without pumping. Needless to say, I was dying. During dinner, I finally had to step away into the bathroom and hand pump into the toilet. I never forgot my pump after that. Okay, I am not a mother, and I don't know what that is like. However, from what I've heard, like that is like really, really painful if you go super long without pumping. And that is so funny. Oh my gosh, that is so horrible. But it's things like that. Like when something like that happens, you'll never forget your pump again. Like stuff happens to me where I'm like, you know, this sucked, but like I'm never going to do that again. Now that I know that this is capable of happening to me, you're not going to catch me twice locking my keys in my car. I'm going to be triple checking my car. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. I feel like it's almost like you have to learn because then you'll be extra aware of it and it'll never happen to you again. You guys are really confessing over here and we're just getting started. I'll tell you what. I shot a wedding, attended the wedding after shooting, and ended up sleeping with a groomsman in a field afterwards. The wedding was at a summer camp. Everyone knew the next morning because the bride encouraged it, but I was still slightly mortified in the morning. He also lost his shoe during the day and never found it even when he was looking for a shoe the next day. Oh, wait. He also lost his shoe during, as in like while you were in the field? And he never found it. What happened to the shoe? This is crazy. So I'm assuming you knew people at this wedding. You attended the wedding. So you maybe, it says attended the wedding after shooting. So maybe that means you just were like vibing with everyone so well that you just ended up staying at the wedding. That is actually so crazy. That's so crazy. That's so crazy. In a field is so crazy. A groomsman, that's so crazy. Like this whole thing is literally so crazy. Like I cannot even put words. And I'm moving on from this because like, what do I even say? Like, what do we even say? Okay, like honestly, like slay. I guess like if you liked the guy, cool. Like go off. And you got some good content because you shot the wedding. So like, okay, a 2-for-1 special. Okay, I'm going to shut up. Okay. This is a straight up confession. I charge more for proposals because the stress is so high. I do too. Because the stress is so high and it's like you have to arrive like 30 minutes early too. Like every guy is like, I want you to be there already. Obviously, and like this makes sense, but it's like, I want you to be there in place, ready to go before I get there. So it's like, oh, well, I got to show up 30 minutes early. I got to make sure I don't run into you in the parking lot. Like, it's a whole thing. And the stress, like literally, I will be shaking. No matter how many times I shoot a proposal, I am just like so shaken. The adrenaline is pumping. Like, it's just so crazy. Ugh. I've been keeping everything on the same hard drive for years because I'm too lazy to update the backups. It's hell. So I know I told you guys to confess everything, but like you need to back up your work. That is insane. I do understand like that lazy feeling where you're like, oh, it's fine. It's literally fine. Like my hard drives never crash, but like when they do crash, you're going to be wishing you had all that backed up. Like, what are you going to do when your one copy of a wedding disappears 5 times because you had 5 weddings you didn't back up? That is crazy. Another confession. I did not bring a single SD card to the shoot. It was only once I was actively about to take pictures that I realized I had no cards. I had the couple drive me to my place of residence so I could pick up the SD cards. We went on with the shoot like nothing happened. Oh my gosh, that is actually so funny. Like, I'm picturing you being like, hey, so can you drive me to get my SD cards? Did you not drive there? Were you like relying on them for a ride period? Or was it just like, hey, let's all hop in one car, make it a group trip type of thing? That's crazy. I'm glad you were able to. Honestly, like forgetting SD cards, although it sucks, I know it's not usually the end of the world because there's usually some sort of pharmacy, Walgreens, Rite Aid close by to where you can buy an SD card. Like they sell those at Rite Aid and Walgreens, I'm pretty sure. So like to me, that's not like the worst thing that can happen to me. The worst thing is like, oh my gosh, I just shot your entire wedding as the reception and my camera fell in the pond and now all your photos are gone. That is like what I'm afraid of, in case you were wondering. I was capturing details on the train of the bride's dress. I used loose florals that the florist gave me. What she didn't tell me was she painted all the florals. When I wrapped up the details, I noticed a huge red mark on the bride's dress. My heart sank and I thought I was going to have a heart attack. Thank God I had Tide to Go sticks and the maid of honor helped me clean it off. The bride was later told about it and she was so sweet and understanding, but literally my worst nightmare, and I'll never use loose florals on her dress again. I feel like that's not common. And also, why is it still wet paint? Did she just paint them? That is not common at all. In fact, I'm kind of mad about this. Cause like what florist does that and then puts the loose florals available for people to use when like obviously it's wet paint? There's no instance where you'd be using those florals with wet paint. It needs to dry for any purpose that's used, for throwing it down the aisle, for detail photos, for scattering them along tables. Like loose florals cannot be wet paint. So like, why was the paint wet? Ugh. Things I'll never understand. Here's another confession. I think that wedding speeches are getting out of hand. Please stop talking for more than 2 minutes. I'm not here for a 20-minute testimony. I really agree with this. And I think as wedding photographers, people in the wedding industry, if you're not a wedding photographer, you've probably attended a wedding where speeches just go way too long. And I think as the photographer, sometimes we feel it's so long because it's like, bro, like I have more than enough shots. Like, let's move it along. Sometimes it pushes the timeline. It makes the timeline like way longer. Sometimes it's literally like we're bored. Like we don't need to hear about the time in 3rd grade where you guys shared a carrot. And I don't know. I think sometimes people make speeches about themselves too. Like they want it to be about the couple, but like somehow it morphs into like, I know them better than anyone else, and here's how, and here's why. Or like, I'm funny, and let me show you I'm funny by giving you my 20-minute stand-up bit. Like, I don't know. They're a lot. And I would say like a 5-minute speech is a good time. Like, that's a long time. 10 minutes is like, bro, like, sit down. Like, that is too much talking. And then this is another confession, kind of along the same lines. I think wedding coordinators need to stop focusing only on decor and actually coordinate people. This is like 100%. I agree with this wholeheartedly. And I don't think every coordinator does this. I think a lot of coordinators are really good at their jobs. But I think sometimes you run into coordinators at weddings where they're just, like they're so focused on decorating that they're not focused on making sure the people actually get a good experience. And I think it's hard as the coordinator trying to figure out like, okay, what do I actually prioritize? Because, you're asked to do decor, but you're also asked to wrangle people. And sometimes you probably can't do both. And maybe it's a matter of them being understaffed. Maybe that coordinator quite literally just needs to like hire another person to be on their team. I don't know, but I agree. Sometimes it gets a little crazy. Okay, this one's just like a really cute story I wanted to read. Not a crazy story, but very emotional. Last October, my grandpa passed away after a battle with dementia. I had a wedding to shoot about 2 weeks after he passed, and on the morning of the wedding, I was especially struggling with missing him, knowing the bride's grandpa would be at the wedding and I would never have my grandpa at mine. It was a beautiful wedding day and everything went amazing. It came time for the ceremony, and then Grandpa of the bride began his walk down the aisle to the theme song of the movie Up. As he slowly made his way down the aisle with his cane, he had the happiest look on his face, and I was in tears the entire time thinking of my own grandpa who had just passed. I can't describe it, but it was as if all of the other guests had disappeared and I could only see the grandpa, and I could almost hear my papa saying, "I will always be watching over you." To this day, the bride doesn't know how much I needed that moment and just how much her wedding meant to me, but I'm so thankful that photography brought me this moment. That's just like really sweet. And I feel like in photography, we don't always realize like how many amazing moments, like you don't always realize how photography is also serving you. So like you serve people, obviously we have our clients and whatever, but photography sometimes serves you as well. And there's a lot of different ways that photography can serve you. Maybe you're not really a people person. Maybe you like to stay in your shell. Photography serves you in a sense that it forces you out of your shell, forces you to talk to strangers. Photography can also bring you moments of gratitude when you're literally photographing a grandpa walking down the aisle and you realize like, wow, I'm really grateful for my grandpa or whatever. Or maybe you're shooting family photos and it just makes you really thankful for your family dynamic and your family. Whatever it is, like, I just feel like photography sometimes can be just a really big full circle moment. So I just wanted to have that little tidbit of happiness in here. But don't worry, we've got plenty of more confessions. So we're going to keep going. That wasn't really a confession, but it was just really sweet. If I'm working on your gallery and I'm well within my delivery time frame and you message me making me feel rushed after I shot your wedding like a week ago, I will push your gallery to be delivered closer to the due date than I likely originally would have. Okay, so now we're getting petty. And it is kind of, I don't do this, but it is kind of funny. Like, I don't know. It's like you have control over when the gallery gets delivered. I do think sometimes people get really excited about their galleries and they really want to know when they're going to be done. And honestly, sometimes I can't blame people because it's like I've had my photos done before and I've been really excited to see the photos. So I get it. I do. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I literally just shot these. They're fresh, like literally still on my SD cards. I just got home from your wedding. Let's chill. Give me a minute. I'm an equestrian photographer. I shoot horses daily and it's quite entertaining. The worst thing that's ever happened was that a girl had her whole finger bitten off by a horse mid-photo shoot. She had to go to the hospital right away and I was just left there. Oh my gosh. Well, the question is, where are the photos of the finger bite? Maybe we don't need to see them, but we need to know, like, did you take photos of the finger bite? Also, like, that is insane. Like, you just were left there. Like, it's like, and honestly, if I were the girl, I don't know if I'd want those photos back. Like, I don't know about that one. That's crazy. Also, that's terrifying. I'm like kind of scared of horses sometimes. Like, okay, you guys, I'm sure you guys all saw, and maybe I even talked about it on the podcast. I think I did. The wedding where like the horses, just all three of them came up to me at the same time and I was literally terrified. This is like one of those things where I'm like, I would be out of there. I'm terrified. That is so scary. I actually had a wedding it wasn't a wedding. It was a senior session. And I was doing these senior photos. And it was like the mom and the grandma were there watching, but they were kind of like far away. Like we were in this field and they were kind of like up on the sidewalk, like away. Like we couldn't really see them. And we basically finished the photos. So we like walked back to the sidewalk to meet up with them. And grandma is on the ground And there's like a man standing over her, like being like, I'm a doctor. Are you okay? Like, and like checking her pulse and like panicking. And then the mom is on the phone, like calling an ambulance, and like the ambulance pulls up, and I'm literally like, what happened while we were taking these photos? And I guess like the grandma, like she just has some health issues and she like passed out or whatever. But literally we were supposed to keep shooting that night, and we ended up rescheduling to the next morning because it was like, that was crazy, actually insane. Anyway, feels good to get that off my chest. Okay. I missed the first kiss because I was taking a shot of the bride's father crying. And you know, there's nothing cuter than a father crying, truly. Nothing cuter. Now, is it cute to miss the first kiss? No, it's not. But it's like, I know that shot was probably good too, of the father crying. Because you're like looking at these two moments. You're like, okay, first kiss or crying father. And honestly, you probably don't realize you're missing. Like, it sounds like this person didn't realize that the first kiss was happening. But like at a wedding, there's so many big moments happening. And I think sometimes that's why I feel almost like scatterbrained at a wedding. Because I feel like I'm constantly scanning the crowd for what's the next thing that's happening. I'm looking all around, trying to make sure I don't miss anything because so many things happen. There's so many people and there's only like one or two of you. It's stressful. I was shooting a wedding and the people didn't cooperate with me. Like literally bouncing off the walls, didn't listen to anything I said, acting like little children. I grabbed my stuff and I drove off. Never saw them again. They didn't ask for a refund. I got to keep my money and never gave them their photos back. Oh, okay. So like, that's not cool. That's not cool. I don't think I would do that. And I wonder if that's like within your contract. Okay, so I have something in my contract that says like, you know, there's certain things that allow me to leave a wedding. For example, like any sort of like harassment, you know, stuff like that will allow me to leave the wedding. But like them not cooperating with you, they don't listen to anything you said. I don't know if that's a reason for you to leave. But also like, you just left. They didn't care. They didn't ask for their money back. That just seems very unfortunate. I don't know. I just try to put myself in their shoes. Like, imagine your photographer just leaves. Like, that's really unfortunate. And like, you don't have anyone else to capture the day. I can see both sides. Okay. This one is actually crazy, so you guys need to buckle in, okay? If you're listening, you're zoned out a little bit, zone in right now, okay? Turn me up, if you will. This is my biggest mistake I've ever made as a photographer. Basically, in high school, I got a boyfriend that I kept almost all throughout college. We were together for almost 4 years. We broke up because I found out he cheated on me multiple times. I was so upset because we planned our whole life together, including planning our wedding. Fast forward to now, 2 years later, I'm a wedding photographer. I recently got an inquiry from a wedding planner. I set up a meeting with the planner and the bride because the groom was busy. I ended up booking with them without ever meeting the groom. At the wedding a few months later, I was shooting getting ready photos. I just finished the bride and was heading over to the groom's room. I walk in and the groom is my ex-boyfriend. I didn't know what to do, so I just said hi and I congratulated him. I was so scared though. I didn't know what to do, so I just dealt with it until the reception where the bride gave a speech about how long they had been together. Turns out she was the person he was cheating on me with. I was fuming. I went over to where the groom got ready and I took a lot of his things from the groom's room and I threw them out the window. It turned out that an elderly couple were walking right underneath the window as I was throwing out a bunch of his clothes. It's safe to say this wedding planner is never hiring me again. I am literally speechless. I like the shock. First of all, walking in that room and seeing the groom and being like, that person I was with, I envisioned my life with that person. And now they're marrying this other person. Not only that, you find out that the timeline, it's literally the person that they cheated on you with. Cool, awesome, great. And I have to capture this. Awesome. Yeah. I just really hope the groom like knows that that girl's the one, because, you know, once a cheater, I'm not going to finish that sentence, but you know what they say? Once a cheater, blank, always a blank. So just, you know, best of luck, best of wishes. And honestly, the funniest thing about this is you going to that window and chucking things out the window. Like, this really does feel like a movie. And then the fact that there's like a couple, like someone, an elderly couple walking outside the window is just even that much more funny. Like, that is so funny. Oh boy. Honestly, like, how do you react? Like, it's like you want to be a professional. They hired you. But here's my thing. Now that I'm really thinking this through, did the groom sign a contract? My guess would be yes. Very likely the groom signed a contract with you. Did he not look to see what the name was of the photographer that they were hiring? Let's say, like, all of my contracts, like, it says, here's an email from Cassidy Lynne. Oh, you're signing a contract. Oh, who's the photographer? It says literally on the same line, Cassidy Lynne, client's name and client's name. Like, it's right there. Did the groom know? Maybe he didn't know at the time of booking, but maybe he figured it out. Like, I think the groom had to have known. Like, there is no way that this was just like, oops, sorry. Maybe like the groom didn't find you. Like, maybe the bride genuinely found you, liked your work, but like, at what point in the booking process was the groom like, oh, I'm, you know, shooting, or Lillian is going to be my photographer. Oh, I had an ex-girlfriend named Lillian. Like, at what point in those, you know, those things not connect in the brain? That is actually like mortifying. Oh, I'm mortified. Second wedding. I forgot to take a photo of the bride on her own after she had her dress and makeup on. At the end of the reception, the maid of honor asks me, "Did you get the picture of the bride by herself? I can't remember you taking one." I replied, "Yep, not to worry, I got one." I did not, in fact, have one. I ended up taking pieces of the bride from different images throughout the day and using them to recreate the main bridal portrait. It was the most photoshopping I had ever done. Nobody ever realized. To this day, this fake photo of the bride is used as her profile picture. Are you kidding me? Okay, first of all, like, okay, we kind of need to see this photo. Like, can you cover the bride's face with an emoji and DM it to me, please? Because I want to see how good this Photoshop is. Like, you have to be some sort of magician to make this work. I can't even imagine. I don't even know how you would piece together enough parts of the bride to make this photo. Maybe if there's like a shot of like the bride and one of the bridesmaids, and then you could like Photoshop the bridesmaid out. Bro, that is insane. A fellow photographer invited me to my first wedding. In the middle of the wedding, while I'm shooting, I felt wetness down under. I continued shooting because we were in the middle of the ceremony, and then I walked around forgetting about it. I was getting stares, like people were looking at me, so I got worried, but I was also drenched in sweat, so I just thought they were looking at me because I was sweating so much. Girl, tell me why I went to the bathroom after the ceremony and I had started my period, like full blown started, and it was dripping down my legs. That was terrible. The photographer I went with was a guy, and he was literally scared. Oh, no. He was literally scarred. I went and sat in the car, and I had to wait for him to finish up. Moral of the story, my camera bag always has pads and tampons now, and I only wear black. I had worn light blue jeans this day. I am deeply sorry this happened to you. But the thing is, like, it is so common for this to happen. Like, why do people have to be so, like, acting as if you have the plague or something. Like, it's your period. Like, I feel like guys especially are like acting as if you're some sort of disease that they're going to catch when you start your period. It's like, okay, like this is how I work. I'm a woman. This is how it goes. And it's not like you get a timer of like, ding, 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 your period's ready. Like, it just happens. So like, normalize getting your period in public. Okay. Jeez, guys. Jeez Louise. Okay. I'm going to skip through some of these because we're kind of running low on time. Let's see. Sometimes when I do wide shots, I let out so much gas that's been building up, and I feel so much better. And I hope the clients take their time, or I leave immediately to go to them in hopes that the smell doesn't follow. This is so funny. So literally you go out of your way. You're like, oh, I'm going to go get a wide shot. In reality, you're literally just farting. And then you like rush back to them in hopes that like the smell doesn't follow you, because it's like you just had to like have a moment. That is literally so funny, but also like kind of smart, not gonna lie. Okay. I've got a few more here. I was shooting a wedding a few months ago and the couple wanted a private cake cutting. I was getting the table all ready for them to start and began by moving the cake. All of a sudden the table somehow shifted and my finger went directly into the frosting on the side of the cake. And right as it happened, the groom's younger sister came up to me. We made direct eye contact when it happened, but both of us said nothing about it. I know she saw the whole thing, but the bride and groom came up and they joked about how someone poked their finger in the cake, but they didn't know what to do, so they just laughed it off. I still don't know if his younger sister told them that it was me, but luckily I went to high school with the groom, but it still felt a little awkward. Another thing about this whole wedding was that the groom had asked me out 3 times before he met the bride. I rejected him each time and was so surprised when they asked me to shoot their engagement and wedding. Oh, wow. So I think the most shocking part of this is not necessarily, yeah, you stuck your finger in the wedding cake. Okay, like that happens, whatever. Like it's not even like you smushed the whole cake. It's like your finger just went into it, whatever. It's the fact that the groom was begging on his knees for you and then marries this other girl and then like asks you to take the photos. That's what's really weird for me personally. I don't know if anyone else feels that way. Like that is crazy. I don't know like what it is about like people thinking their exes need to like shoot their weddings. Like how about we just don't do that? Let's not. Something about these confessions. I'm like, no thanks. I forgot that a couple booked me for photo and video, so I only did their photos for their elopement. And fast forward a week, I realized that they hadn't paid their remaining balance. So when they asked about the video, I told them I didn't shoot it because they didn't pay the full invoice. So I assumed that they didn't want video anymore. But in reality, I just forgot about it. Yeah, that is crazy. You got really lucky. I'm going to say like that is actually really lucky, because normally it would be like, what excuse do you have? Good for you for thinking on the fly, but also feels a little icky, but it sucks that you forgot. Like I triple check all of my packages before I shoot a wedding or shoot anything, because it's like, I want to make sure that what I said I was going to do, I'm actually going to do. There's nothing worse than like, you know, being like, oh yeah, I'll get photos of this specific item on your wedding day. And then you don't. And it's like, oh, I told them I would and I didn't. That feels awful. I hate that. Okay. This is my last one. My last confession. Okay. Let's see. It starts kind of weird. Like the wording is kind of funny. Okay. I hate knowing that the light I place my subject in is terrible. I continue to shoot so as if to not feel like an idiot or make my client feel like I've wasted their time. This specifically happens to me during in-home newborn sessions. Like I just made a poor postnatal mom go crisscross applesauce on the floor with her baby, and now a cloud came up and there's no light, and I hate to say, get up. then spend way too much time editing that set of photos because we spent too much time there, that I don't want a client wondering where those pictures are. I've been doing photography for too long to be a sucker for this. Yeah, I can agree. Like, I hate, like, when I do this though, like when I put my client in a space where the lighting is just not great, I will be straight up and be like, let's try something else. Because I'd rather be honest with them and let them know this is not hitting, this is not good, because there's nothing worse than like someone hyping you up and then you get the result and you're like, do you have eyes? Because this is not good, like you were saying. So I lean on the side of just like being straight up and honest, and just honestly, I would just apologize for being like, sorry for making you get up. Is there anything I can help you with? Can I help you stand or whatever? But yeah, it sucks because it almost makes you feel like you don't know what you're doing. Like when you're constantly moving your client around and like having all different sorts of lighting, it's like annoying because you don't want to seem like you're this newbie who's just like figuring it out as you go. But in reality, it's like, the lighting is not hitting and like there's nothing you can do about it. Oh, that's the worst. I'm so sorry. Okay, guys. That was Photography Confessions. Thank you so much for confessing. As always, kept anonymous, and we'll definitely be back for another submission episode. I will see you guys next week for another episode. Have an amazing rest of your day.